So in yesterday's video, we discussed all of the fallout from the fans and the media regarding the Heat's humiliating finish to the season. But today, we got to hear from the players as the Miami Heat held their official exit interviews. So in today's video, I kind of want to talk about what stood out for me from everybody that spoke and everybody that didn't speak, because that might be a little bit more interesting. But to kick things off, the interviews went about as well as the actual season for the Miami Heat. I guess whoever was organizing them was running on Miami time, because the interviews were supposed to start at noon. And I kind of had my workday planned out perfectly. I was at a job site. I was going to have an hour commute back to the office that I was going to do around noon. So I figured I'd listen to the interviews in the car. But I was all the way damn near back at the office by the time the interviews kicked off, because they didn't start until 50 minutes later. They were 50 minutes behind schedule when the interviews finally kicked off. Yeah, have some patience. You're not that important. Listen, 56.9% of y'all don't think you could beat Terry Rozier in a shooting contest. So make sure y'all subscribe to fix that. Let's get back into the video. But they eventually did get going, which started off with Erik Spoelstra. And of course, I love Erik Spoelstra. I don't think that he should be fired like a lot of people. I'm cool with him continuing to be the head coach and trying to improve what he did this season, where he was terrible. So I'm not ducking smoke for Erik Spoelstra. He was awful. But I don't think one bad season is enough to justify his firing or promote him to the front office. Like, Pat Riley can retire. He's 80 years old. Let somebody else kind of fill that role, whether it's Adam Simon or Andy Ellsberg. Let somebody else do that. I want Erik Spoelstra to be my head coach. Now, as far as when he speaks, I've actually always kind of liked the way that he talks in these media interviews. I know it frustrates a lot of fans because he usually never says anything, which is very true. Spoelstra is a master of coach speak. And there was a lot of fans saying, oh, the media needs to grill Erik Spoelstra on his terrible season. And it's like, they can try, but he's not going to say anything. He never says anything. And while, yes, that is frustrating as a fan because we want answers, let Pat Riley give you the answers. Like, Erik Spoelstra needs to worry about the actual on-court basketball product and the X's and O's and rotations. And when it comes to that stuff, I don't really feel like he should say too much. I feel like it kind of gives teams a competitive, or opposing teams a competitive advantage when he's out there blurting all of our private business out. So I don't think he should say a lot. Like, at the end of the day, it's none of our business as fans. We would like to know, but we don't have that right, truthfully. Now, a lot of fans also are tired of his spoisms and his irrational confidence, which was a popular word today. They don't like the whole don't let go of the rope and we have enough. And I agree. Those sentiments are kind of ridiculous, but I don't like those coming from the front office, because if the front office has irrational confidence, well, then they are not actively trying to improve the roster. They're overvaluing Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo, getting a bunch of undrafted players. I don't like that. But from the head coach, I kind of appreciate that irrational confidence because he is instilling that into the players. And I think that's part of the reason why we've seen this Heat team overachieve most of the seasons that Spoelstra has been here. Obviously not this season, but most of the seasons. And I kind of like Jimmy Butler for that same irrational confidence, because if you don't have that confidence, if you don't think you could beat the Cavs as the head coach, then what does that say to your team? If I was a player and I heard Spoelstra say, yeah, this series is going to be a tough one, I don't know if we have a chance. If I was a player, I'd be like, what the hell? So that's you saying I'm not good enough. So I do appreciate Spo's general irrational confidence because he needs to instill that into his players. Now, I know he also has a say in the team building. So if he brings that irrational confidence to the team building side, obviously that's not as good. But other than that, there was a lot of stuff today that I didn't appreciate from Spoelstra. I felt like it was a lot of excuse making. He basically would say, we don't like to make excuses, but, and he would follow that up with an excuse. Or he would say an excuse and then say, oh, well, that's not an excuse. And it's like, it just sounded kind of hollow to me. One of the guys that he made a lot of excuses for was Jaime Jaquez. And again, I don't expect him to throw Jaime under the bus, but he's like, yeah, Jaime had a great offseason, but then he came in with an ankle injury, sprained his ankle 6 more times, had 4 stomach bugs. And it's like, come on, dude. Like, I understand Jaime had an inconsistent role, but there were stretches of the season when he got to play consistently and he was terrible, and he was benched because he was terrible. Spo was also asked by Ira Winderman to rate his season, And if y'all are not familiar, the players and coaches do not like Ira Winderman. This was more clear than ever because while Ira was asking that question, Spo interrupted him and was kind of snippy. He's like, oh, I'm not going to rate myself this season. And it's just Spo, you could tell he was a little bit snippy today, which he was annoyed, frustrated the way the season ends because he wants to win. And I appreciate that too. He did acknowledge that they need to own the embarrassment, which, again, I appreciate him acknowledging that the season was a true embarrassment. I don't like a lot of the other stuff he said, talking about that. He said the words that, oh my, I'm not sure there's a string of words that pissed me off more than we have clarity. We heard the same thing from the entire team after Jimmy Butler was traded. And obviously they went on a 10-game losing streak, and we see how the season ended. Because one, I guess not one, the main point is you don't have clarity. The only clarity that you might have now is Tyler Herro can't be the first option on a championship team. Because you saw it last season in the playoffs. It was his first year as the guy. He was terrible. But you said, hey, it was 1 year. Let's give him another year. Well, this is now Tyler Herro's second chance to prove himself as the main option on a playoff team. He scored 4 points at home in an elimination game. So you do have clarity regarding that. But there's still a lot of things up in the air because he's up for an extension. So if you don't think he can be a max player, then what is he worth? Or do you think he could be a max player? I don't think he is, but maybe the front office is still fooled. You have Bam Adebayo already on his max, but I don't have clarity on if he's worth that max. Nikola Jovic is up for a contract. Davion Mitchell's up in the air. You still don't know the direction of this team because you traded you traded Jimmy Butler for Andrew Wiggins, who is a 30-year-old who's making a lot of money for a lot of years. So he doesn't fit the rebuild timeline. He doesn't fit the win now timeline. What the hell is the direction? I don't think this team has any clarity. But in addition to that, there's some other excuses that Spo made in terms of how the season ended or how the season wasn't great in general, being the 10th seed. And he's like, we got a lot of young guys on this team. And the first thing he mentions is Pelle Larsson, who's 23. I understand he's a rookie, but 23 is not that young. And then Spoelstra mentions Tyler Herro. He's like, oh, well, Tyler Herro, who's only 25. Come on, dude. Tyler Herro's been on this team for 6 years now. He's been on or a part of a team that's been to 2 NBA finals. He's been in the playoffs every year? They made the playoffs every year? Yeah, it's like he has experience. Calling him a young guy, like using his lack of experience as an excuse, I just found to be ridiculous. But anyways, the next guy to speak after Erik Spoelstra was Davion Mitchell, and he came in wearing one of those hats. And if y'all don't know the hats I'm talking about, it's the ones that's like kind of knitted, that has like a bunny ears on top. I just thought those were so stupid. I wanted to know if I was alone on that because obviously I'm not the most fashionable guy. I mean, I wear the same 2 hoodies in every video. But obviously that's just for the videos. It's because usually when I record, I'm either about to go play basketball or I'm about to go to bed. So I either have my gym clothes on underneath or I have pajamas on. So I just throw a hoodie on before I record. I do have a little bit more style, but not that kind of style. Where the guys, they wear these bunny ear hats. The first time I saw that was Tyler Herro like 4 months ago. And I was like, what the hell is that ugly ass hat? I Googled it. It cost like $600. So the hell do I know? Anyways, that's really all I have to say about Davion because he didn't want to talk about anything. He didn't really want to talk about the extension talks. The only thing that of note is that he did mention he loves it here, and he mentions that he would like to play a lot more on ball. Which I don't want to talk too much about the players' roles and my opinions of them this season in this video, because within the next few days, I will do a player grade video where I'll grade every single player on the roster. We'll talk some more about them then. But as far as Davion playing on ball, that is something that we've noted over the last month or two because we've talked about his assist to turnover ratio in almost every video. And the part of the reason he's racking up so much assists is because he was getting the ball a lot more. You know, he mentioned not wanting to be a corner sitter or running off screens like Duncan Robinson, which is obviously not his role. But I think it was significant that Davion brought that up because there's all this talk about the Heat trying to get a point guard. And he's like, hey, I'm right here. I think I can be the point guard. Now, do I think he can be the number one facilitator? No, but I think he could be a backup point guard. Or I really do. Or maybe a point guard next to a true star to like an Anthony Edwards or whoever else may become available. After him, we heard a little bit from Khalil Ware, who again didn't say much. He's not a guy that really loves the microphone. His lack of energy at times on the court is the same lack of energy he has behind the mic, but he's a rookie. Maybe he'll kind of grow into it a little bit. He did say the one thing he wants to work on is getting a bit stronger, which I think we can all agree would help him significantly. And I am very hopeful on where going forward. I think he's a very skilled player, and I know I made the joke about his efforts, but it's not as bad as we heard coming into the draft, where it was like his biggest flaw is he has no motor. I think at times the motor slowed down a little bit, but there was a lot of times where he was active and engaged. And as he gets a little bit stronger, I think he'll continue to be more active. After Khalil Ware, we heard from Haywood Highsmith. He didn't really say much, but I'm cool with Haywood Highsmith. He didn't make a ton of money this year, and he played well. Hopefully he doesn't have to play any power forward minutes next year, though. After Haywood Highsmith, we heard from Alec Burks, who did say he'd love to come back. Obviously, as a minimum contract guy, I think he had a great season, and I would like to have him back next year on a minimum deal, especially if you are able to shed the salary of a Duncan Robinson. It'd be nice to have Burks' floor spacing on such a great value contract. And he did also note the leadership of Bam Adebayo. He was one of a few guys who did that today, which I like to hear because a lot of Heat fans, I mean, including myself, I'm very critical of Bam's assertiveness at times, but it does appear for all intents and purposes that he's a great leadership guy in the locker room and that he is vocal in that space, which I do think is important because this team doesn't really have a voice right now outside of Bam Adebayo. So it is nice to know that although as fans we say that he's soft and not a leader, we're not in the locker room. And if the players are saying that he is, we got to take their word for it. After that, we heard from Kyle Anderson, who gave some spicy nuggets. He said that immediately that the Cavs were a little bit of a better team without Darius Garland. Truthfully, he didn't say it in like a disrespectful way. It just sounded like his honest opinion. But of course, that's funny because Darius Garland was calling out Tyler Herro. And he might have a point, though, because obviously the Cavs' two biggest wins this series was without Darius Garland. But then Anderson was another guy who mentioned Bam and Tyler as great leaders, which I do find interesting because the question only asked about Bam Adebayo. But he specifically said, yes, Bam and Tyler have been great leaders throughout this whole process of him transitioning to this team. So it's nice to hear that both those guys are kind of stepping up, at least in the locker room. And it was interesting, too, because Anderson mentioned that it was his first time ever being traded. And for a guy that's been on, like 5 different teams at least, interesting that he's never been traded. I didn't exactly realize that. After him, we heard from Jaime Jaquez Jr., who I feel like he handled his press conference pretty well, all things considered. At least he showed up because some of the other players who struggled for Miami this year did not show up today, and we'll get into that. But I felt like he did a good job, answering the questions after the tough season that he had. He kept mentioning the word humbling, which might have been the other word of the day. 2 words we heard the most: irrational confidence and humbling. Obviously, 2 things that you hear after you have the biggest blowout loss in NBA playoff history for a series. But obviously, Jaime noted the things he wants to work on: his jumper, his defense, everything else. He seems to be a team player, and if he's back next year, I am optimistic he can improve. If you're watching this video, then you are an elite ball knower, so why not take advantage of it with MyBookie? Listen, y'all, throughout the NBA playoffs, I'll be using their live betting feature to smash the Davion Mitchell overs and smash the Rudy Gobert unders, and then using their early cash out option to stack up the profits. If you want to do the same, make sure to sign up for MyBookie using promo code MM50, which will instantly boost your first deposit. And then once the games wrap up, you can check out their casino, which has blackjack and slots and roulette. You name it, bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Now let's get back into the video. After that, we finally got to hear from someone we actually care about, which was Bam Adebayo. And from the jump, Ira asked him how Bam was able to manage his leadership through the whole Jimmy Butler saga, but Ira did so by going hard and listing every single bad thing that Jimmy did. He was just being so extra. He's like, Bam, you've had a lot. You've had a lot to handle this year as a captain with everything that Jimmy Butler did, between missing the team planes and walking out of practice early and getting suspended and getting ejected and not trying and taking one-legged threes and arguing about his contract and being best friends with that bum Ernie. Like, Ira listed every single thing, and I was like, damn, Ira. Listen, I know the players hate you, but you clearly hate some of the players, or at least Jimmy Butler, at least. But obviously Bam addressed, or he didn't really address all that, but he said, he just gave the cliches. Yeah, we all just got to stick together. It's difficult times, blah, blah, blah. He did mention that he feels like he's earned the equity to get guys to listen. And that's something that I find important too, because everyone's like, with regards to Spoelstra, fire Spoelstra, get a new coach in here. He's losing the locker room. And it's like, I feel like Spoelstra's earned enough equity from everything that he's seen, to the championships he's won, to the championships that he's lost, that I feel like those guys who have earned that equity also earn the benefit of the doubt for when things go wrong. You give them a chance to fix it. And also they have the respect to get guys to listen and buy in. And I think Bam has that at this point. Tyler Herro, not so much, because we haven't seen him have a lot of playoff success. But Bam Adebayo, yes, he didn't have a good playoff series versus the Cavs either, but we have seen him dominate playoff series in his, 7 or 8 year career, whatever it is. And I feel like that has earned him enough respect to get the leadership of the locker room. And I think that's important. He noted that sometimes these hard times are unavoidable. We've been trying to sit here all season, me and you guys watching this video, trying to figure what the hell went wrong. Sometimes it's hard to explain, but it just has to happen. You have to go through these rough times to get to the great times. That's just how it is in life. And it's never as bad as the worst times, and it's never as great as the good times. So for as bad as things has been, it's only right that the trajectory has to be up eventually. It might not be next season, but point is, we'll get out of these dark times, and that's kind of the stance that Bam Adebayo took as well. It was very clear how much he embodies Erik Spoelstra. He literally said, don't let go of the rope. And just hearing Bam talk, I'm like, there's no way they trade him. Like, even if Giannis is available, I just don't think the Heat would ever trade Bam Adebayo, because they value him as not only a cornerstone, but like a franchise head. Like, if there was going to be a Mount Rushmore of Heat players, I think the Heat would expect Bam to be on that by the time he retires. You have Dwayne Wade, Alonzo Mourning, Bam Adebayo, and whoever else you want to put as the fourth head. I think the Heat front office believes Bam will be on that Heat Mount Rushmore. And then maybe the most interesting thing that he said is they asked him about his comments regarding Pat Riley needs to make some changes that he made after the game a couple days ago. And Bam basically said, hey, those questions are for Pat Riley. Hopefully he answers them and doesn't blow you off, which I was like, damn, okay. Now he giggled about it. He wasn't being too harsh, but that is once again Bam calling out Pat Riley. Pat, you're going to run it back year after year. You're not going to give me no help. You're not going to go after my actual friends like Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant. Well, you got to answer for yourself. And I do respect Bam about calling out Pat like that, because Bam's 28. You got to get him some help. Before you know it, you're going to waste his prime. And I think Bam is one of the nicest players in the league. So maybe the Heat front office might be taking that niceness for granted. But he's like, nah, like, get me help. I want to win. Other than that, Bam just mentioned that Khalil Ware has some DPOY potential. And I just like to hear the captains on this team really give credit to Khalil Ware, because Ware had some rough stretches this season, particularly in the postseason, obviously. But if they believe that he can be successful, then so can I. Or at least it confirms what I believe too. So that was nice to hear. After that, we heard from Nikola Jovic, who was also a little hypocritical. And I like Jovic. He's very honest. A lot of those Europeans are, like Goran Dragic, we always know, never held his tongue. But Nikola Jovic is like, part of the reason he wasn't great this year is because the Olympics didn't really give him a full offseason to work on his game. But then later on, they asked him about his Olympic experience, and he's like, yeah, the Olympics really helped prepare me for this season. So it's like, which is it? Did the Olympics help you, or did they hinder you? Now, I guess he was trying to say that they helped him stay ready and not rusty for the season, but they didn't give him the free time to actually develop his skill, because he wasn't in a gym working on a new skill. He was working on playing for the Serbian national team, which is different than playing for the Miami Heat. So I get it from that aspect, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's a good excuse not playing in the Olympics for a reason that you didn't get substantially better, which I think he did get a little better this season. I think it just kind of went downhill when he hurt his hand. But anyways, they also asked him about Jimmy Butler, which I was very curious to hear about, because we know Jovic was probably Jimmy's closest friend on the team, right? We know how much they got along, and he straight up said, I didn't talk to Jimmy much about it when that whole situation was going on. So seems frosty. I'm not sure Jimmy Butler has any other friends on the team outside of Kevin Love right now, I suppose. After that, we heard from Pelle Larsson, who says that he'll play in Euro Cup, which is cool to see. I do think it's good that these younger players do get that experience playing with their national teams. One, it's cool as hell. They grew up in the country, and now they get to play for the national team. It's dope. So, like with Nikola Jovic, I'm not, getting on him for playing in the Olympics and not developing his game. Like, you should play in the Olympics. Go play against some of the best players in the world, and I think that is enough to make you get better. So same goes for Pelle Larsson, so that'd be pretty cool. He'll play in Euro Cup. And then finally, after Pelle Larsson, we did hear from Tyler Herro, who we had to wait like another 15 minutes to hear from after Pelle was done talking. And then when Tyler came on, the audio didn't even work, so I had to X out and go back. And like I said, it was a bit of a mess today, these exit interviews, but whatever. Eventually, I did get to hear the whole Tyler Herro interview, and the first thing that he noted is that his role changed drastically throughout the season. We remember coming into the season, he was going to play a lot of off-ball, no mid-range shots, and by the end of the season, he was on-ball heavy, he was taking a lot of mid-range shots, and he kind of said the whole Jimmy Butler exit changed a lot of his role, which I agree with. I understand, because I do think Herro was going to play off ball a lot this season because you wanted to provide that spacing for Jimmy Butler. But then it's like Jimmy was also supposedly mad from the start of the season that his role was drastically decreased because he was going to be less involved. He was going to be less on ball. So it's like, how can both be true? How can Jimmy Butler be off ball and Tyler Herro be off ball? Like, you're not going to have Bam Adebayo be your primary ball handler. This team did not have a true point guard to start the season unless you're talking about Terry Rozier. But it's like, I don't know. That's just why I never really believed Jimmy when he was talking about, oh, I'm mad and I don't have my joy because of my role. And he was kind of blaming Spoelstra. When to me, I always kind of thought that stuff was excuses because he wanted to get paid. And if you really think about it, it is kind of, because, Tyler just acknowledged it here and we all forget. Tyler was off ball a lot to start the season. He was primarily only getting to the rim or 3-point shots to provide that space for Jimmy Butler. So I just thought that was something interesting that came to mind. Ira also asked Tyler about his leadership role during the whole Jimmy Butler saga. And once again, Ira went off. He literally said, with everything that happened with Jimmy this year, with Jimmy doing this, and this, we asked Bam the same question. How did you deal with all of that? And it's just like, damn, Ira, like, he's not even hiding his hate. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And then Tyler Herro also finally addressed that Jimmy Butler comments that he had a couple days ago. We had a whole video on that too, where Tyler literally said, I need Jimmy Butler to win. And before the exit interviews today, Tyler actually posted on his Instagram story, basically saying that was taken out of context. He was talking about how before the season, he thought he needed Jimmy Butler to win, and now he doesn't need Jimmy. Or it was like, even his quote on the Instagram, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't fully get what he was trying to say. And then he didn't really explain it further in the press conference today, because he was asked about it, and Tyler was basically like, yeah, I already answered that on my Instagram story. It was taken out of context. It's like, was it? Like, the full quote was there. Like, you literally said you need Jimmy Butler to win. Whether you said that at the beginning of the season when he was still here, or meant it for when he was at the beginning of the season or not, you still said it. But then Tyler's like, I don't care if we were 0-82, I would never say I need someone else to win, which I agree with. I do think he has that confidence, which is why I thought the quote in the first place was weird. But anyways, that was the last guy that we heard from today, which means that we did not hear from Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, and Duncan Robinson, three of the most disappointing players this season. I guess those three and Jaime Jaquez, if you want to say the four most disappointing. That's why I gave Jaime Jaquez credit for speaking. Duncan Robinson, I don't care as much just because he's been here a long time. Who knows what was going on with him? The only annoying part is he'll gladly go on the Young Man in the Three podcast with Tommy Olter, or start his own podcast and just talk. But today's the official media day right after the end of the season, and you don't want to speak. So it's like, now I'm going to hear him on a podcast probably in a week with Cam Johnson and Tommy Olter, and it's like, oh, you could talk to them, but you don't want to talk to us? I don't know. Maybe it's something personal going on. But as far as Wiggins and Terry Rozier, assuming they had nothing personal going on, maybe they did. I don't know. And if they did, I apologize. But if not, I think it's very soft they didn't speak today. We know Andrew Wiggins doesn't like to talk a lot. He's kind of a quiet guy, doesn't like to be behind the mic. But he had a terrible finish to the season. He couldn't stay healthy since the Heat traded for him. And outside of a handful of games, the 40-point game, couple of 30-plus point games, outside of those few and far between good performances, he was awful. And it would have been very interesting to hear his perspective once he got traded here after leaving a team like Golden State, who he really viewed as a family. It was very, it would have been interesting to hear from him and kind of why he struggled and what his goals are going forward with this franchise. But he ducked the smoke. He didn't want to talk. And Terry Rozier, even worse, because he literally was the biggest disappointment that you could ever imagine, and he had nothing to say for himself. Now, he's not a guy that really talks a ton either, but it's just like, if you're going to go out there this season and play like you did and get paid the $30 million that you do, the least you can do is speak. So I thought it was a bit soft from both of those guys to not come out there and not talk. Like, easily Tyler Herro could have declined to not come out there after his poor performance and all the talking that he did. But no, he went, he showed up, and he spoke. And I give Tyler Herro credit for that. I do. But anyways, we also didn't hear from Kevin Love, but he obviously has his personal stuff going on. But we did learn that he came out and said that he will be back next season. If you can get Kevin Love on a minimum contract, I'm cool with it. A lot of Heat fans would disagree, but I like the idea of having his voice in the locker room, and I do think he could be a great connective piece to kind of keep everyone together. A lot of people don't value the OG leadership locker room role no more. I do. Obviously can't be Udonis Haslem no more. He retired. So I think Kevin Love is a nice veteran guy who just has the experience and the IQ and just the tone and knowing how to talk to all different types of people that makes him just that great locker room coach role. A lot of people might say, why waste a roster spot? Put him on the coaching staff. And it's like having a guy who's an actual player, it comes across different. Like if you're Hayward Highsmith out there and you're struggling, it comes across different if you have old-ass Malik Allen talking to you or slightly old-ass Kevin Love talking to you. It just makes a difference. But anyways, that's really all I got to say for this video. So overall, we didn't really hear too much today, as you'd expect. The real interesting stuff is going to be when Pat Riley speaks in the coming days, coming weeks. He doesn't usually speak in these exit interviews. He usually has his own long-term press conference or longer press conference after these exit interviews. And Barry Jackson did say should be within the next couple of days or weeks. So we'll obviously keep an eye out for that. And that is when we're hopefully going to hear some juicy nuggets. Other than that, let me know all y'all thoughts down below. I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Like, subscribe, all that stuff is greatly appreciated, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.